My name is Sabiha, Sabiha Kazi. I am a physician in Orlando, and I work at the VA.
I'm Ibrahim. I'm a physician in Dallas, Texas.
So we are here in Chicago in the middle of what is going to be hopefully a historic anti-war protest against the Democratic National Convention and against the anointed Democratic candidate Kamala Harris. Why are you guys here?
Honestly, to me, the biggest thing has been this past year the genocide in Gaza and the absolute brutality of it. I have zero faith that our leaders, our American leaders in either party, are going to protect any type of marginalized group, whether it's outside of our borders or within our borders. And I think that this genocide highlights that.
Um, my main reason here is to help stop the genocide in Gaza. Um, I don't think it's going to be effective, but I think what little I could do, I'd like my presence here to help with that. Um, I'd also like to, voice my opposition to the Democratic Party and their complicity in genocide and a multitude of other things. I don't see a difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. We essentially live in a one-party state that is owned by corporations and is not for the people. And that's the main reason why I'm here.
And Ibrahim, you have family from the West Bank. Can you talk about your background and also what are you hearing from your family and friends about the situation there?
Yeah, I have. Both my parents are Palestinian. I was born in Jordan, but I grew up in the United States. The situation in the West Bank and Gaza obviously is devastating. The West Bank, in its own right, is being um, persecuted and brutalized by the Israeli occupation. What I hear from family members is that it's intensified, much more so than in previous years. But it's a culmination of a slow motion genocide that's been going on for over 75 years.
Right. And you are both physicians. Can you tell us what you see in your work as physicians and how does it connect to the overall situation and also to the genocide and, as you said, to the failures of the Democrats and Republicans?
Yeah. I think that as physicians, we took care of homeless people, people with just desperate poverty, and, people who have medical problems that are a result of poverty and a result of lack of housing, lack of good nutrition. I mean, even walking through Chicago, this is a beautiful city, but if you look at infrastructure, the infrastructure is falling apart, So it's like, on the one hand, we're continually told, oh, we can't have Medicare for all, it's too expensive. The price tag's too high. We can't have all these social services. The price tag's too high. But yet, almost every month, there's something in the news about how we're sending another billion-dollar package of weapons to Israel or to Ukraine. So where are our priorities? I mean, if this is my country, if this is our tax money, if this is our country, I would like that money to be reinvested back into us, into our communities.
Yeah, I mean, I would say going through training in medical school, that really helped form my political views. I see the failure of our healthcare system and capitalism and how it forms our healthcare system. It's really, once you see it, you can't unsee it, and it's unfortunate because I think people know deep down that there's a rot in the healthcare system. I think it's a good metaphor for the entire system. But we're all kind of cogs in this big wheel, and I think what we need is a political movement that can break out of that. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm here as well.
And I think at this moment, it's a historic moment because these are the first glimpses, possibly, of a resurgence of something like the anti-Vietnam War movement, where it was actually millions of people on the streets, including active duty soldiers themselves, becoming anti-war, that really forced Nixon, a complete reactionary, to end the war under his regime. Can you tell us what do you think is going to be needed for the anti-war movement to succeed in actually bringing about a permanent ceasefire? But not only that, obviously, as you all know, a ceasefire won't even be enough. As hard as it will be to win, we need a complete end to U.S. military funding. We need an end to the occupation. Fundamentally, though, what is going to be needed, and I'll make the question even more pointed. We are here to protest the Democratic National Convention. We're here because we believe that both Harris and Trump are warmongers. They are representing warmongering parties of the billionaire class. Is it possible, in your view, for the anti-war movement to succeed unless the movement breaks from the Democrats and Republicans and builds independently of them?
Yeah, I don't believe that any change will happen within the two-party duopoly. They're both corporate parties. They're both pro-war parties. I think that if you look at the history, I mean, even frankly, since Reagan, Carter, even, um, Democrats are not going. They're not an anti-war party. They are not going to bring peace. They're not going to reinvest back into our own communities. And I firmly believe that. I mean, I'm not sure how much we can change within our electoral system, but nonetheless, neither change is not going to come from either of those two parties.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. They're both captured by corporations. They're not a vessel for change by any means, and I think Bernie Sanders' run and all that happened is a clear demonstration of that. We both fell for that, I think, unfortunately, but I think we now know a lot better. I honestly think the only way to get back to your question about stopping the genocide and forcing this administration to stop that is a general labor strike. That's the only power we have, is to withdraw labor. And that means all types of workers, blue collar workers, physicians like us. We consider ourselves workers. We don't consider ourselves to be, above anything. We're all part of the working class. And that's we have to grind the whole system to a halt so that it's taken seriously, because that's the only power we have.
Yeah, I mean, as a socialist myself and a decade-long elected representative of working people, I could not agree with you more. Absolutely, the only way we can stop this war is if the capitalist profit machine is shut down. But to drill down deeper into that, how is it possible for us to do that, in your view, when you see the vast majority of the labor leadership completely tied at the hip to the Democratic Party? You saw the 7 unions, major unions, including UAW and the National Education Association, who passed this historic resolution, unified resolution, to end all military aid to Israel. All of them, all the leaders turned around and gushingly endorsed Harris after having endorsed Biden. I'll tell you, my view is that you cannot resolve that contradiction. You can't pass a ceasefire resolution and then turn around and endorse the warmongering chief. Workers Strike Back, my organization, we have endorsed Jill Stein as a step towards building a new party for working people, independent of Democrats and Republicans, because that is what's needed. But we don't believe that for a moment that new party can be built. It's going to be a pipe dream unless we concretely take action in the presidential year and say, we need to break from these two candidates and you need to vote for Jill Stein, because every vote for Jill Stein, as much as it is, will provide a basis for having for starting that project of the new party. What do you think? And are you guys also supporting Jill Stein?
I'm voting for Jill Stein. This will be my 3rd time voting for her. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that getting her into the debates is key. I think that's having her debate Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, it's something that I would like to see, because I think she would wipe the floor with both of them. And frankly, I think the vast majority of Americans would agree with her platforms. And I think they would agree with her plans for the country.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I've voted for Green Party since I could vote in college. I think the Green Party offers at least the operational structure to voice, the alternative to the two-party duopoly. I think supporting Jill Stein is a way of highlighting the difference in the duopoly, because right now the narrative is very controlled by the media, and if you're able to demonstrate popular support for a candidate like Jill Stein that's pro-worker, against genocide, against the military-industrial complex, then there can be no option but to highlight that.
Absolutely. Do you think that we need a rank and file rebellion inside the labor movement in order to push back against a labor leadership that is so tied to the Democratic Party?
I'm not against wildcat strikes, and in general strikes. I think that's
Yes.
In a capitalist system, you got to hit it where they're going to feel it, where it hurts, and that is with a general strike.
Right.
That's where we have our leverage. That's where we have our power.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, I think unfortunately, only 9% of workers are in unions. It's been decimated. and that's not by accident, of course. So I think we have to think of other ways outside of the captured union structure to organize strikes. But I do think strikes are the mechanism to effect change.
Right, absolutely. And then last question, but not least, as physicians, what do you think about Jill Stein calling for Medicare for all? Worker Strike Back is also calling for Medicare for all. Do you think that is sorely needed from your first-hand experience? And also, is that enough?
I do feel that Medicare for all is a compromise. A single payer system is a compromise as opposed to a socialized system. I personally would rather see a socialized system, a well-funded, well-supported socialized system within the United States, like an NIH for all, something similar to that. But Medicare for all, to me, is a sufficient compromise at this point.
It's going to be hard to win because we're seeing how the Democrats have betrayed us. AOC has betrayed us, the squad.
They only talk about it every 4 years, right? And then this year, nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
No one is even talking about this.
Exactly.
68,000 people die every year from a lack of health care. It's immoral, and it's shameful that we are the richest country in the world, and people are dying because they're sick. People are dying because they don't have enough money to go to the doctor.
I think people are so entranced or unable to imagine anything better. I just thinking about my coworkers. There's a lot of moral injury in the system that we're in because we're not able to give effective care. We're giving compromised care. Essentially, as a physician, I work for the insurance company in an indirect way. A lot of the decisions I make sometimes are oftentimes affected by, a third-party private corporation. I think having someone that offers a different vision, that's even talking about this, goes a long way into creating awareness. Because I think we're still at a level where there's not even awareness, even among our coworkers and physicians.
Yeah, it's funny because people say, oh, if you like your insurance, you can keep your insurance. But the only people who like their health insurance are the people who don't have to use it, right? Once you start using it,
Or the very wealthy.
who the very well who can just pay out of pocket, right? But once you start using your insurance, you're like, man, this sucks.
Then you find out how little it covers.
Yeah, how little it covers and what a scam it is.
Yeah.
And there was a study that was done. I know we had a grand rounds a few years back. There was a study that was done that older patients, like the sicker you are, the more you use the healthcare system, right? The older you are, the sicker you are. They spend 40 hours a week managing their healthcare, right? Like, so calling insurance companies, calling doctors, calling pharmacies, calling insurance companies to get their medications covered. I mean, that's a full-time job. Why?
It is. And the insurance companies hire battalions of employees to deny healthcare, and then
Right? It's in their interest to deny care. If you go to go to Reddit, go to type 1 diabetes Reddit, and they will talk about how awful their coverage is and how awful their insurance companies are, that their insurance companies won't cover insulin, which is cheap. It's an old drug. It's cheap, but is artificially expensive. And why? So these drug companies can make profits off of sick people? That's disgusting.
What do you say to people, including your fellow physicians, who say, well, but Kamala Harris is calling for limiting the fees for insulin. Shouldn't we support her because otherwise we'll get Trump? How do you respond to people who say that?
I mean, I just don't think it's enough, and I honestly, I don't trust her. It's they say, like Sabiha was saying, they promise some things every 4 years and they always renege. I don't think one promise that Biden made was fulfilled. The $15 minimum wage, all of that was thrown out the window.
The problem with the term affordable is that that's subjective, right? There's always going to be somebody that can't afford it, that can't afford something that's affordable. So, we should have it. Why can't we have a country that works for all of its people? Why can't we have a country that at the bare minimum covers basic human rights for everybody, all human beings within our borders? To me, I think that what's happening in Gaza has amplified the fact that amplified where our money goes.
Yeah.
The fact that we were willing to spend with no questions asked to kill people on the other side of the planet, but we are not willing to spend that money to help to save the lives of our neighbors.
Yeah. And to be clear, when you say we, it's really not ordinary people. the majority of whom support Medicare for all, the majority of whom support an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. So really, it's the people who are at the top, the billionaire class, the big pharma, big insurance, the warmongering interest, war profiteering industry, and the Democrats and Republicans who represent them. They are the ones who are choosing to have this situation where they are sending historic amounts of money to Israel to conduct the slaughter in Gaza, and at the same time that the Palestinians are undergoing this untold suffering, you have tens of millions of Americans in the richest country, as you said, also suffering.
Yeah.
Just lastly on this, to you, does this point to the need? We were talking about general strikes and the need to shut down the capitalist profit machine. To you, do all these issues also then point to the dire need for internationalism in the workers' movements?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot for us to learn from other countries and to unite with other countries. I think um, that it's not a topic I'm fully versed in, but I do think that we're all intertwined.
And to be clear, what I meant was that in every country, including in the Middle East, you have a billionaire class, like for example, the Saudi regime and so on, who are uh, fabulously wealthy at the expense of the vast majority of the people in the Middle East, where actually the overall poverty rates in the Middle East are pretty abysmal. It's not only the suffering of the Palestinians, it's also the poverty overall in the Middle East. And we saw how the Arab Spring was brutally crushed by the Egyptian dictatorship. So in other words, the question is the need for working class solidarity internationally.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think all of the same structures that oppress us here in the United States are present, all over the world, especially in the Middle East. And I think being able to break through with that, by crossing borders and linking hands is clear. Even the small collaboration that's occurred, like between Ferguson and Palestinians, that just shows the power that we have across borders. But there definitely needs to be more of that.
I mean, the thing is that the forces that are keeping us without health care in this country, people down the street that are begging for money, the forces that are causing that to happen are the same forces that are causing poverty in Egypt, that are causing poverty in India, that are causing poverty in Africa, in Congo. I mean, these are all the same forces. So, we're all, in that way, we're all interconnected.
And is your home country India?
Yeah, my parents are from India. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, same. I grew up in India.
Yeah.
But you're totally right. And in fact, India has now a historically high number of billionaires at the same time that the masses are more enmeshed in poverty.
Can I plug just
Yes,
one thing? Can I plug the Orlando RBN Mutual Aid chapter?
Yes,
So if y'all are able to, can you please donate money? We donate money, and I mean we collect money from people who donate, and then we make care packages for homeless people or unhoused people in Orlando. There's a lot of people. So if you can, it's the Orlando RBN chapter.
Yes, thank you so much.